and welcome. Tonight, Ghana's former president John Dramani Mahama wins the country's presidential election. His main opponent, Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia, concedes defeat. And President Bola Tinubu congratulates Ghanaian President-elect John Mahama, hopes his victory will further bring stability to the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS. Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau launches investigation into incident involving Flybird to determine the circumstances surrounding the engine malfunction and subsequent loss of both engines. We begin tonight from Ghana, where supporters of former President John Mahama have been celebrating his win at Saturday's presidential polls. The current vice president and presidential candidate of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Mahamudu Bawumia, has already conceded defeat and called Mr. Mahama to congratulate him despite the results of the election not yet announced by the electoral body. Our correspondent Amarachi Ubani reports.
There's been no official declaration of a winner of the presidential election in Ghana, but to supporters of former President John Dramani Mahama, they already have their winner. Though all of the ballots are yet to be fully counted, Mahama was already set to be in the lead with 56.3% of votes against 41.3% for Mahamudu Bawumia.
Previous election was somehow shaking, and then there was a lot of let me say inconveniences, but this time we want it to be smoother than the previous election so that everything will be clear.
I'm very, very, very happy because of John have winning Bole district or Bole municipality. So today I'm very, very happy. All of the town, young boys, youth, ladies, old men, all of them are very, very happy because of their brother, their son, their uncle, their, their son.
The former president acknowledged on social media platform X that he had received a congratulatory call from the vice president following his win. Bawumia said he called Mahama to congratulate him. Bawumia said he was basing his concession on internal tallies from the governing New Patriotic Party. He said these showed Mahama had won decisively, while the opposition National Democratic Congress had also won the parliamentary election.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will be faithful and true to the Republic of Ghana.
The 66-year-old John Mahama once served as president of Ghana from July 2012 to 2016, serving only one term and making history as the first president in the history of the country to not have won a second term in the 2016 election. But this was his third attempt at reclaiming the nation's top position following his run in 2016 and 2020. One of the first African leaders to congratulate Mahama on his victory, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Toure, who congratulated the people of Ghana for conducting successful presidential elections and for the democratic maturity displayed throughout the electoral process. He also praised the smooth transition of power. Observers of the election said there were so many aspects that could be emulated by other countries.
It's quite interesting because, quite in a lot of other places, even when you know you're losing, you either try to do something that will disrupt the process. Even when you know you're losing, you try to do something that, even after the result had been announced, people head to court. Some people head to court and then we stretch it from tribunal to appeal, and in some cases the Supreme Court, creating another market for lawyers and, of course, looking at opportunities of finding a way to penetrate our judiciary, and quite a lot of this is issues. So that announcement he made and conceding that election brought down the entire tension.
The elections come amidst the country's worst economic crisis in a generation, which saw the cost of basic goods shoot up, while young people struggled to get jobs and the country was unable to repay its debts. Challenges Mahama has to face his second time as president. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated President-elect John Mahama on his victory in the December 7 general election in Ghana. In a telephone call to Mr. Mahama, President Tinubu hoped that his ascension to power for the second time will further bring stability to the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, of which President Tinubu is the chairman. According to the presidential spokesman to the president, Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu commended the people of Ghana for their commitment to democracy, which was demonstrated through the peaceful and successful conduct of both the presidential and parliamentary elections. He applauded Ghanaians for demonstrating again to the world that democracy is the preferred path to achieving political stability, economic development, social justice, and transparent governance in Africa. The president applauded the candidate of the governing New Patriotic Party, the vice president of Ghana, Dr. Mohamedou Bawumia, for conceding defeat before the official announcement by Ghana's Electoral Commission, saying that Mr. Bawumia's stance reinforced Ghana's democratic ethos. The president stated his readiness to work with the president's incoming administration to strengthen bilateral ties across various sectors and build a better future in the West African region. Let's turn our attention now to developments in Syria. As we hear, outside President Bashar al-Assad has arrived in the Russian capital, Moscow, and that's after fleeing Damascus. Reports from Russia's state media agency says that Assad and his family have also been granted asylum by Russia, according to sources. Bashar al-Assad fled when rebel group had swept into the capital this weekend. But earlier this evening, leader of the HTS, Abu Muhammad al-Jawani, made a surprise visit to the Great Umayyad Mosque in Old Damascus. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Amarachi Obani reports.
The Syrian rebel commander Abu Muhammad al-Golani was greeted by cheering crowds as he entered the historic Umayyad Mosque following the rebels' declaration of President Bashar al-Assad's ouster. He described the victory as a turning point for the region, accusing Assad of having handed Syria over to Iranian ambitions while spreading sectarianism and corruption. He said, "This entire battle, my brothers, which has unfolded thanks to God, is purely revolutionary. We did not seek help from anyone, nor did anyone support us. Instead, we relied entirely on ourselves, on our own resources and efforts. All this achievement came from our work alone. You witnessed the missiles we made, the bombs we created, and the planning we executed, all as part of revolutionary actions." Russian media announced news of Assad's whereabouts after hours of speculation. He had arrived in Moscow and has received asylum in Russia, he and his family. Russia has supported the Assad administration since the beginning of the Syrian conflict in 2011, politically, with military aid, and with direct military involvement. Up until last week, Russian airstrikes targeted rebels in Syrian cities. On Sunday last week, Russia carried out a series of airstrikes in Syria as the rebels advanced after seizing Aleppo. Warplanes also struck rural parts of Idlib and Hama, where the group leading the rebel offensive took control.
Brutal authoritarian rule by
leaders around the world reacted to Assad's ouster. U.S. President Joe Biden described the situation as a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their country.
At long last, the Assad regime has fallen.
The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcomed the news.
I welcome the fact that Assad has gone. The Syrian people had to put up with his brutal regime for far, far too long.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he stood with the Syrians and was hoping for a free and peaceful future. He said Germany would offer its support. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed Assad's ousting as a historic day that follows blows delivered by Israel against Assad supporters, Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Iran, on the other hand, says only the Syrian people can make a decision about the country's fate without any destructive foreign meddling. A statement from the Iranian government says it continues to closely monitor developments in Syria and the region and will adopt appropriate approaches and positions. In the meantime, Syrians in major cities across the world celebrate Assad's exit and possibly the end of a 13-year civil war. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Back home, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, says that it has commenced investigation into a serious incident involving a Flybird HS-125 aircraft with registration number 5NKAL. The aircraft, operating a flight from Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, to Kotoka International Airport, Accra, experienced technical difficulties during its flight on December 6, 2024. A statement issued by the Director, Public Affairs and Family Assistance, Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Mrs. Bimbo Olawumi Oladeji, says preliminary information indicates that the aircraft, with 4 persons on board, 3 crew members and 1 passenger, was climbing through flight level 240 en route to flight level 280 when the crew reported an engine number 2 indication issue. The statement makes it clear that NSIB has launched an investigation into the incident to determine the circumstances surrounding the engine malfunction and the subsequent loss of both engines. The NSIB adds that its team is already gathering evidence, conducting interviews, and reviewing the aircraft flight data and maintenance records to uncover underlying causes. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas to urgently assess the human rights impact of Nigeria's reform bills currently being discussed by the National Assembly, including on Nigerians living in poverty. SERAP said in a statement issued by its Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadari that any discussion and consideration of the tax reform bills will ensure full compliance with provisions of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended and the country's international human rights obligations and commitments. The organization adds that the assessment should be transparent, include public participation, and shape the provisions and measures that ultimately passed, and that the outcome of such assessments should be widely published. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, has secured an agreement to enhance Nigeria's healthcare ecosystem in Doha, Qatar. The minister concluded the bilateral framework for this agreement when he met with his Qatari counterpart, Minister of Public Health, Mr. Mansour Al-Mahmoud. The coordinating minister held the critical meeting alongside other engagements with the multi-billion-dollar Qatar Fund for Development and Qatar Charities on the sidelines of the forum in Doha.
Today, we had conversations with the Qatar charities, and we agreed to collaborate in terms of medical outreaches and considering the expansion of the Vulnerable Groups Fund so that we protect our mothers from obstetric complications, cesarean section, and the affordability of that, consistent with the policy direction of our government to make sure that women do not die because they cannot afford the critical services that they need. We also had very rich discussion with the Minister of Public Health of the State of Qatar to explore collaboration in the human resource arena. In January, we will have Nigerian professionals visiting Qatar to look at the Qatar Rehabilitation Institute, what we can learn, because there's a lot that we can learn from Qatar. We will also look at their blood transfusion services and how they've organized it, and the emergency medical system in Qatar. Finally, we had a conversation with the Qatar Fund for Development to explore how the Qatar Fund for Development can join us and expand the availability of quality primary healthcare services, immunization, and for external investors to participate in what is emerging to be a story of prosperity, which Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has articulated in his renewal agenda.
In part 2, after the break, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State commissions hybrid power plants in Ibadan to help the state bridge the gap of power sufficiency. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. Ghana's former president John Dramani Mahama wins the country's presidential election. His main opponent, Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, concedes defeat. President Bola Tinubu congratulates Ghanaian President-elect John Mahama, hopes his victory will further bring stability to the economic community of West African states. And Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau launches investigation into incidents involving Flybird to determine the circumstances surrounding the engine malfunction and subsequent loss of both engines. Overthrown Syrian President Bashar al-Assad flees to Moscow as Syrians celebrate the end of Assad's family half-century rule. We head to Taraba State now, where the governor, Abu Kefas, says that his government is focused on transforming the economy of the state and utilizing both the natural and human resources of the state. The governor stated this at a one-day interactive session with critical stakeholders in Abuja. At that event, the state government says it has so far been able to get over 200,000 children back to school through its free education policy. Our correspondent Empress Simon reports.
The Taraba state government is in the nation's capital, Abuja, for the second edition of the interactive session with critical stakeholders.
The governor of Taraba state.
Governor Abu Kefas begins the discussion with a highlight of the achievements recorded by his administration so far.
At the Dambaba Sunte Airport in Jalingo, significant progress is being made to enhance infrastructure and operations, paving the way for improved connectivity and economic opportunities. The runway will soon be open for operation.
He speaks about his plans for Taraba State.
We have expanded our collaboration with traditional institutions, security agencies, and local communities to establish joint intelligence networks. We aim to protect every corner of Taraba and ensure it contributes positively to our shared vision.
Some officials of the state take turns to give a scorecard of their ministries and agencies, revealing what efforts have been made in the area of food security, land administration, education, environment, and tourism.
We have come up with a plan that in April 2025, we are going to be distributing 336 mini global tractors across the 168 wards. These are some of the spots we will be working. We are also working towards getting Taraba Agricultural Credit Corporation that will provide financial assistance to our farmers from time to time. It will be a recycle fund.
In the primary school, before free education and now, there is a difference of 288,403 children have come into school because of the free education policy. And at the secondary sector, also you can see a margin of 85,285 children have come into secondary school.
The state government also says it's working to combat insecurity and the challenge of illegal mining as well as deforestation.
Taraba is well policed. Taraba has security agencies that are working together. And if you are in doubt of coming to invest in Taraba, you have no doubts. Come in and you'll be secured. That's what we're doing in the state.
Our target is to raise not less than $1.5 billion, which I think with my number, if my number serves me right, we're talking about over 2 trillion naira to inject into the economy of Taraba State.
Despite these achievements, the Taraba State government says it's not resting on its oars as it targets to generate 2 billion naira from its new land administration policy. The government is optimistic of getting inputs from stakeholders at this meeting that will add value to governance in Taraba State. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
And from Taraba, we head to Oyo State, where efforts towards an economically prosperous state appears to be crystallizing with the policies and programs of the state government there. Commissioning a hybrid power plant at the state secretariat in Ibadan, Governor Seyi Makinde says the project will help the state bridge the gap for power sufficiency within the secretariat and its environs.
This is Powerhouse, situated within the Oyo State Government Secretariat at Agudi Ibadan, and where the energy requirements of Oyo State would be met. So as to kickstart the project, the Oyo State Government is here to commission phase 1 of the 11-megawatt hybrid power plant.
We can look at our own power requirement and try to bridge the gap by ourselves without looking towards anyone else. And this is exactly what is the exact trajectory that we're on in Oyo State.
Within the same arena, Governor Makinde says a 500-megawatt solar energy project would sprout to supply power to a larger community of residents of Oyo State.
Not only will Oyo State be self-sufficient in generating its own power, we will also be exporting power. Not only locally, even internationally, because we share border with the Republic of Benin. We can easily sell power to industries in the Republic of Benin. So it's our ambition.
This project effectively kickstarts the state's vision for energy sufficiency and transition to cleaner energy, which will drastically reduce carbon emission across the state.
Under the leadership of His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde, we have driven them hard, but they have delivered phase 1. And phase 1 is evidence of our power sector reforms for increased access, availability, and quality of electricity in our state.
The project is done in collaboration with investors from the private sector who are leveraging enablers provided by the Oyo State government and its commitment to make businesses thrive.
In subsequent phases, we'll be connecting several hospitals, judiciary complexes, and ultimately commercial and residential customers, eventually making it a fully embedded IPP.
Governor Seyi Makinde also reminds residents of the state and other investors that the $100 million investment deal signed with Shell has put machinery in motion for a gas pipeline infrastructure to support the energy sector projects of his administration, adding that this would equip the state as the destination of choice for investors and improve the livelihood for residents across the state. Bukola Oriowu, Channels Television News.
Coming on the heels of years of underperformance, neglect, and the eventual decision to shut down the Port Harcourt plant in 2018, the rehabilitation commenced in 2021 as part of government's program to upgrade the country's refineries. Well, in this next report, our energy correspondent delves into the issues in the former state of the plant and the pictures of the new plant.
Nigerian refineries and its bumpy tale of undulated performances, outputs, and its maintenance came to its head in 2021 when the management of NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, decided enough said and enough done with the unimpressive output, which were abysmally below par. To solve the problem is to diagnose it properly, and in the case of repeated occurrences, an isolation of previous application is applied. That clearly became a line of sight if these 445,000 barrels per day combined capacity refineries are to return to optimal levels. The funding strategy was a fundamental element in the suboptimal results previously gotten from the refineries.
To put it correctly, up to 2018, the refinery was still operating. Not 100%, but in some little 30, 40 or less also. You cannot call that a dot horse.
Performance indices globally is a direct offshoot of efficiency. Efficiency is said to be derived from competencies. Competencies is said to start with the right recruitment, whether talent or financing. This mechanism is the fulcrum set to be driving the federal government's renewed drive at rehabilitating the 3 crude processing plants. From the schedule, the Port Harcourt refinery is to be turned up first, then followed by Warri and Kaduna, respectively. Apprehension kicked in. Doubts were rife, and concerns were well in place, especially when in the outgone year the Port Harcourt refinery was announced to have been mechanically completed. Nothing could better explain the conclusion in public space that semantics may have been used or deployed by the rehab managers to explain failure of restarting the plant, let alone the shifts in dates of commissioning. Just a fortnight ago, the polity was awash with news that the Port Harcourt refinery is now refining and turning out petroleum products like PMS. Days after that event, the dust is yet to settle in some quarters of the veracity and authenticity of the story. On this visit, a federal government delegation, some concerned groups, and journalists are back to see if the story is a fluke. But from all measurable engineering parameters for the running of a plant like this, it is in production.
Okay, let's have this view.
From the gas flare stack, the grinding of machine sounds, indicators on the control room computers, to the 330 degrees burning furnace, this is crude refining activity in full operation.
The Port Harcourt refinery, it's a Nigerian asset, and it's a collective asset for all Nigerians. So I can understand the different tones, the different passion for Nigerians to see this work. But then, the good news for us all as Nigerians is that the plant is working, our products are being refined, the Port Harcourt refinery is on stream, and we are all happy and we are good to go.
According to experts, blending, cracking, trucking, whatever the misconceptions are, these are all a part of a functional plant.
Like you pointed out, it's a misconception. And just because a lot of people don't know what's happening here. And now that they get to know better, I can see that mindset is shifting now. So yes, it's just a misconception. The plant is fully on stream, as all the guests who have come in have seen, and producing very good quality products, and we're trucking now.
On the flip side of things, workers can be seen hard at work on the bigger plant popularly referred to as Port Harcourt 2, the 150,000 barrel per stream day refinery with completion time frame put at 2025. And this thing's a fluke.
No, it's not a fluke.
There are also strong indications that the Warri refinery is coming on stream in a few months as rehabilitation work has reached advanced stage. We shall serve you those pictures in the coming days. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, we have more for you on the Port Harcourt refinery. Plus, police rescue kidnapped victims, arrest suspects for kidnapping, robbery, recovers firearms and ammunition in several states across the country. Please join us again. Welcome back. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, and stakeholders in the industry say that the Port Harcourt refinery is operating. But the tough question now is how much impact will this have on the Nigerian economy? Well, on Friday, the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, released its own new report on Nigeria's trade status with the rest of the world. This new trade report contains vital data about how much the nation spent importing refined petroleum products within the first 9 months of this year. Tonight, Babajide Ogunsawo, founder of Leadership by Data, and Channels Television's data analyst, is here to share more insights and give us more interpretation to what all these numbers mean. Hello, Babajide. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10.
Good evening, Anna.
Let's begin. First, what does this new trade statistics reveal?
The trade statistics clear. It shows that we're
we've exported more products out of Nigeria this year than we've imported, so we have a trade surplus. But how I perhaps would like to put it, Anne, is that in this report there's good news and there's bad news. Now the good news, Anne, and listen carefully to this, the good news is in the first 9 months of this year, if we look at our crude oil exports relative to our total exports, the number shows that our crude oil exports accounts for 73% of our total exports. In simple terms, crude oil still is our major export. Well, here's why I say there's some good news. Last year, crude oil exports relative to our total exports was 81%. So last year, crude oil exports relative to total exports, 81%. Now we are down to 73% this year. So that's some good news. Now, the bad news is that the numbers, our trade statistics numbers, are getting harder to interpret. And I'd like to share a short story to explain this. I have a friend, Anne, who exports cars. And so he told me that, Jide, in December last year, I exported 10 cars, and each of these cars had an average value of 10 million naira. So he exported 10 cars, each for 10 million naira. So his revenue on these 10 cars, 100 million naira. This year, he's exported only 7 cars compared to what he did last year, 10 cars. 7 cars, however, each of these cars sold for 17 million naira, giving him a total revenue of 119 million naira compared to his 100 million revenue last year. So the point is, if he looks at only his revenue, 100 million naira last year on 10 cars, now 119 million naira on the same brand of cars, the same type of cars, 119 million naira, it will seem as if he's making more money. There's some revenue growth. However, the fact shows that he's selling fewer number of cars because of the value of those cars, if you understand what I mean. So let's take a look at what do Nigeria's import numbers show. Sometimes it will show that we're importing much more, but perhaps the answer isn't that. And if you take a look at our importation trends, I'll explain this better. So yes, in the first 9 months of this year, manufactured goods still accounts for majorly what we're importing. First 9 months of this year, 18.2 trillion naira worth of imports for manufactured goods category, for manufactured goods, oil-related goods, petrol, and all of that, 14 trillion naira, compared to what it was in the same period last year, 6.5 trillion naira. And so, yes, you will think that we were importing oil-related goods of 6.5 trillion naira in the first 9 months of last year. Now it has grown to 14 trillion naira. However, the point I'm making is that is not necessarily an absolute growth in quantity. So what we expect from the ports and the National Bureau of Statistics to now do is, unlike previous years where it is okay if we see these absolute numbers, and the absolute numbers are fine when we don't have so much change in the exchange rate. But now that we understand that the numbers for 2022 significantly different from what happened in terms of the currency 2023 and now 2024, it makes no sense trying to compare these numbers with previous years unless we can clearly see the quantity. So now, unlike ever before, we need the numbers now to be coming out with quantity, so it allows us to understand, are we really improving, or are we retrogressing?
All right, but some observers are really concerned about the capacity or the utilization status of the Port Harcourt refinery. I mean, it's been a topic of discussion for several weeks now, but do we have any reactions or any facts on this situation?
First is, if we take a look at we can take a look at those that are concerned and listen to those that are not concerned. If we listen to those that are concerned, they point to the fact that Nigeria, if you look at the refinery capacity of Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and Warri, that's 445,000 barrels per day of refining capacity. However, what we're talking about now is only Port Harcourt coming on stream, which is 60,000. In simple terms, even if Port Harcourt is working full capacity, that's still less than 15% of our national refining capacity. So that is really why some are concerned. However, if we listen to the words of French philosopher Voltaire, 1694 to 1778, he's made it clear, let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good. Is there some reason to be optimistic that, yes, Port Harcourt's refinery is working? Yes, there's reason to be optimistic. We are not yet perfect, but let's, again, like the words of Voltaire, let's not make perfect the enemy of the good. Why do I say there's progress? Let's take a look at our oil importation trends, the ratios, because the ratios actually allows us to see how big this move is and the challenges that we've avoided by bringing Port Harcourt refinery on stream. Again, the ratios allows us to see a better perspective of the situation. Our oil imports relative to total imports, the ratios, first 9 months of 2020, oil accounted for 14% of everything that we imported. Look at what happened in 2021. It increased. Oil accounted for 16% of everything that we imported to 29%, 33%. This year, oil-related imports account for 35% of all our imports. So what the NNPC and its GCU Mele Kyari have done by bringing this refinery on board, good move, far from perfect. However, it significantly will help stabilize the economy. It will still significantly help to free up foreign exchange earnings that can go into vital sector. Again, look at those numbers. We've moved from oil accounting for 14% of total imports just 4 years ago to now 35%. So imagine what will happen if we're able to bring those numbers down to as low as 5%. Significantly, I'm looking at economic stability in the days ahead, in the months ahead.
All right, talking about stability now, when you look at what's on ground at the moment, what is the outlook for the Kaduna and the Warri refineries?
So I think the most important thing right now is the second Port Harcourt refinery, because that is the big deal. That's the real deal. This refinery is 60,000 barrels per day installed capacity. The second Port Harcourt refinery, and 150,000 barrels per day. So the question now on the lips of many observers and watchers is that when will the second Port Harcourt refinery come on stream? However, if you take a look at the positive words from the group chief executive of the NNPC, if you take a look at that, he says that there's some hope. He's made it clear that they said it will never work again, but it worked. They said it will stop working, but it is working. They said the next one will not work, but it will work. So we'll hold him to these words and expect that 2025 will certainly be another good year for Nigerians.
All right, that's our prayer and our hope as Nigerians. Thank you very much, Babajide Ogunso, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst.
The pleasure is always mine, Anne.
On the news at 10. Let's turn our attention to security now. In a series of coordinated efforts to enhance internal security, the police say it has achieved significant success in combating crime and rescuing victims of kidnappings and other criminal activities across the country. On December the 7th, 2024, police operatives foiled 2 separate kidnapping attempts in Katsina State. The first incident occurred at 7 p.m. along the Katsina-Magama-Jibia Road, where armed bandits attacked a vehicle carrying 10 occupants. Police engaged the attackers in a gun duel, forcing them to flee with injuries. They successfully rescued all 10 passengers unharmed. On December the 4th, a lady abducted for attempted trafficking was rescued by police operatives, and the suspect, identified as Abraham Patrick Francis, was arrested in Akwa Ibom State. Police operatives in River State also rescued a 10-year-old boy, Emmanuel John, on December the 4th, following the arrest of the suspect, Mwile Bete. The boy was successfully reunited with his family, and investigations are already ongoing. On December the 6th this year, police intercepted suspected kidnappers in Taraba State, rescuing 3 victims after a gun battle and recovering 3 AK-47 rifles, 5 magazines, and 75 rounds of live ammunition. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, praised the operatives for their gallantry, urging them to intensify security measures during the festive season. The governor of Kebbi State, Nana Sir Idris, has commenced the statewide tour of all 21 local government areas aimed at expressing gratitude for the overwhelming support he received during the elections and addressing the concerns of the people. The tour, which began with visits to Gwandu, Agungu, and Agui local government areas of the state, has the various community leaders applauding the governor for bringing major developments to their communities. And just before that, still on security, the federal government is now set to recruit 30,000 men and women from across the country annually into the Nigerian police force. The Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, disclosed this during his visit to the Nigerian Police Academy in Woodhill. Our correspondent, Sadiq Iliasu, reports.
The Minister of Police Affairs arrived at the Police Academy to monitor the ongoing screening exercise for the new intakes. The prospective candidates must undergo a rigorous screening process, including assessment of their academic qualifications, physical fitness, and mental health.
We had screened the days of their arrival because we divided it into dates and time. So every candidate has been given a time to arrive, and then their vital organs will be checked. That is some of the physical features and some of the their BP, their sugar level will be checked, and then they will now be passed to the academics for screening before they now take the computer-based test. So all those who participated in the computer-based test will also be moved to the screening of credentials and then the physical screening of the candidates.
The minister who toured the school reiterated the federal government's commitment to recruiting more police officers through a diligent and transparent process.
Because the number of police being recruited, 10,000, is not enough to cover all the states. So what the president is saying, he has given approval for the recruitment of 30,000 policemen annually for the next 5-6 years. I think if this is done at the end of the year, we should be able to get enough number of policemen to take care of our security challenges in this country.
The minister emphasized that this annual recruitment drive is part of the government's efforts to enhance national security and maintain law and order. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Away from security, we told you earlier about the tour of the Kebbi State Governor Nasir Idris, commencing that tour in 21 local government areas aimed at expressing the overwhelming support he got during the elections.
The Kebbi State Governor begins his tour of Gwandu local government area, where he is warmly welcomed by enthusiastic supporters and residents. Speaking in the local dialect, he expresses appreciation for the people's prayers and steadfast support. He assures them of his administration's commitment to meaningful development across the state. From Gwandu, the governor moved to Alge local government area, where he was lauded by party faithful for putting an end to Lakurawa bandits and restoring peace to the area.
You have just walked into Algi in a convoy, and as you are coming in, you have seen how excitement, how impressive the entire people of Algi local government are.
Moving on to Argungu local government, the community leaders are thankful for the projects in the area, including the total rehabilitation of the government hospital, among others. They have appealed for more development initiatives.
His Excellency commissioned the construction of at least some kilometers in the local government and the rehabilitation of General Hospital Argungu. That's why I feel, His Excellency, that we need more.
Speaking to journalists after the tour, the governor reaffirms his administration's dedication to enhancing security and ensuring that all local government areas benefit from the dividend of democracy.
Every leader wants to see his people appreciating what he was doing. It's his responsibility to do it, because during electioneering campaign you must make some promises, and by God's grace I have fulfilled almost 80% of what I have promised this local government.
Joining the tour, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, commends the people for their unwavering support for Governor Idris's administration and the federal government.
His Excellency Dr. Nasiru Idris, Governor of Kebbi State, is leading an entourage to commence a tour of all the local governments to appreciate all the support they have given his administration, to listen to people more, to show them that they matter and appreciate what is going on. And we all came to support him.
The tour is set to continue as the governor promised to visit all 24 local government areas in the state.
Governor Hyacinth Alia has commissioned 2 laboratories established by the Benue State University Center for Food Technology and Research, where over 100 postgraduate students have been trained to curb post-harvest losses. Speaking to Channels Television in an exclusive interview after the commissioning, which is part of activities for the combined convocation of the 22nd to 24th ceremony, Governor Alia says the state will establish more cottage industries to support the university's research efforts. To Rivers State now, where the government has reiterated its commitment to the advancement and the welfare of youth residents in the state. The Chief of Staff to the government, Edison Ahie, made this known while speaking at the 60th anniversary of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, which took place in Port Harcourt, Rivers State.
It's the 60th anniversary of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, and the celebration is taking place at the Yakubu Gowon Stadium in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, with representatives from the 36 state chapters of the council.
You're welcome to Rivers State.
The president of the NYCN, Comrade Sukubo Saraigbe, lauds Governor Fubara, pointing out that since his election, the previous administration failed to recognize him.
My state government has never officially welcomed me as a river son. But today, I'm telling every river sons and daughter, the executive governor of River State, find me worthy to say you are our son.
The governor's chief of staff, Edison Ahie, lauds Governor Fubara's commitments to youth advancement.
Large percentage of executive chairmen and vice chairmen, almost 80% are youth ambassadors in their prime. Councillors are youths. Therefore, this goes a long way to show that the governor is very, very youth-friendly. Further to that, the governor is investing in programs and projects and policies that intend to showcase the raw talents of Rivers youths and empower our youth meaningfully.
Mr. Ahie also points to the number of requests for collaboration as evidence of the safety of the state.
Crime rate in Rivers State has dropped very, very well. This is the reason why almost every week you see investors from across the globe visiting Rivers State government with the intention to partner as to bring in foreign investment and development to further engage the youth of Rivers State.
Meanwhile, the chairman of Obiakpo, who had been feuding with the NYCN president, says they have settled their differences. He, however, warns him to get ready for the battles ahead as a result of this event. It would appear that calm has returned to the NYCN, with warring factions setting aside their differences to recognize one national president. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Julius Berger Nigeria Limited has reiterated its commitment to staff welfare and empowerment for their outstanding dedication, a strategy it says has ensured its success over the past 6 decades in Nigeria and on the African continent. The managing director of the company in Nigeria, Mr. Pierre Lubas, pledged the continuous support for their staff across the country at the Long Service Awards and Get-Together, organized for its workers to reward hard work and the legacy of unwavering loyalty to the brand. Our correspondent Leo Moyeni reports.
It's a celebratory atmosphere as staff of Julius Berger Nigeria Limited, alongside their families, gather for the annual Long Service Award Get-Together. Some cultural display entertained guests and makes the mood livelier. The managing director of the company and its head of administration assure workers of the company's continued reward for faithful service.
To all our bodies, your commitment has not only driven Julius Berger forward, but also left an indelible mark on Nigeria's development. Your resilience, expertise, and passion define who we are as a company today, a beacon of excellence in the construction industry. As we celebrate our achievements, let us remember that our shared values of collaboration, courage, responsibility, and excellence remain our guiding light.
This annual long service award is for the recognition of exceptional dedication of our staff for their loyalty to the company. And it holds a personal significance to me, as I mentioned. When I joined Julius Berger in 1989, I was involved in the construction of the State House, which is named as Aso Villa. And, since 1989, I'm sure you can see this is a testimony of the quality of construction for Julius Berger.
And then the awards are presented. Some of the awardees who have spent between 25 and 35 years expressed their feelings about the gesture.
It's a very remarkable day for me, having put up 35 solid good years with this company, and I'm happy to be a part of the success story of today.
I'm very, very proud to be an Julius Berger staff because since long time I've been working with them. We are working together and work peacefully without having any issue.
795 members of staff were recognized, among which 134 have spent 10 years, 265 have devoted 15 years, 71 have marked 20 years, 298 have given 25 years, and 23 have reached the incredible mark of between 30 and 35 years.
We delve into the world of sports now. Enyimba of Nigeria came from 2 goals behind to draw 2-2 with CAF Confederation Cup title holders Zamalek of Egypt in the second Group D match played at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo earlier this evening. The Cairo club dominated the first half of matchday 2 clash, building a 2-goal lead after 40 minutes. Enyimba rallied back with goals from Ifeanyi Ehemekwele and Chinedu Ofere. With the results now, Zamalek have picked 4 points from 2 games, while Enyimba have a point from the same number of games. For the third straight week, the battle for the top spots in the Nigeria Premier Football League has again changed hands. This time, it's Rema Stars who have displaced Rivers United at the top of the table. In Sunday's games, which recorded a total of 13 goals, Rema Stars beat visiting El Kanemi Warriors 2-0 in Ikene, Ogun State, while defending champions Rangers International beat Rivers United by a lone goal. Both teams are on 29 points, but Rema Stars are enjoying a superior goal difference. In other games, Plateau United beat Heartland 3-2 in Jos. Kano Pillars beat Abia Warriors, and Bayelsa United all enjoyed home wins in match day 16. To the English Premier League, Chelsea came from 2-0 beat down to beat Tottenham 4-3 and go second in the English Premier League thanks to 2 Cole Palmer penalties, which happened earlier today. Chelsea closed to within 4 points to leaders Liverpool, who have a game in hand after their visit to Everton on Saturday was postponed due to high winds. Arsenal were held to a 1-1 draw by Fulham at Craven Cottage, while Road Van's Leicester struck twice late to deny Brighton in a 2-2 draw at the King Power. Bournemouth also scored twice in the dying minutes to deny Ipswich a first home win in the top flight for 22 years in a 2-1 win at Portman Road. And the main news again. Former President John Dramani Mahama has been elected Ghana's president once again, defeating Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia in a fiercely contested election. Vice President Bawumia, the candidate of the New Patriotic Party, conceded defeat today, acknowledging the will of the people. We also told you that overthrown Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has fled to Moscow as Syrians celebrate the end of Assad's family half-century rule. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Have a wonderful week ahead. Good night.